share their perspectives and experiences on collaborative learning in the globalized environment. Dr. Amrita Vohra, Director Principal of Elpro International, Maharashtra, India, will be moderating this session. A big hand, everybody, for Dr. Amrita Vohra. And I would request Sugandha Khandelwal, Elpro International School, to please join the panel. Joining them on the panel are Hameed Ali Yahya, KM, Principal of Scholars India School, UAE. Hand please, everyone. Swarnabha Saxena, Principal of Holy Rock School, West Bengal, India. And Zainab Asif, Head of Department of the American International School, Dubai, UAE. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. I have a very bad throat. I'm going to take help of my colleague Sugandha, who's going to probably shoot the questions today. I hope we have a wonderful discussion, and I welcome all the panelists on board. Looking forward to hearing from you, ma'am. Hands up.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this very, very amazing panel discussion that we're about to have on a topic which is, I think, very close to us as educators: collaborative learning in the globalized environment, universalization of school education. Over the years, we've grown up listening to the often stated quote, which is "the world is an oyster," and that has become increasingly relevant today as we sit in times where technology has given an exponential scope for us to collaborate with each other. Now, while globalization honestly started back in time when Columbus started on his world voyage, the contemporary globalization, especially between India and the Middle East, started in 1991 when the governments opened up to each other on their markets. And since then, we've seen globalization happening across all fields of FMCGs, beverages, IT industry, manufacturing, etc. The untouched part, which is, I think, why we are here today, was education. And we did see some sporadic efforts made by people across the world in bringing globalization to education. But had it not been for the pandemic-induced lockdown, that we would have probably explored the kind of opportunities that came our way during the COVID-19, where we all started collaborating over these wonderful platforms of Zoom and Teams and Meets. And very soon, all the educators had the same lingo, right? Mute, unmute, turn on your cameras, everybody. That's what we've been hearing for the last 2-3 years. Anyway, so coming to the fact that collaborative learning and universalization of education is happening across the globe now, I'd like to share one example here that we do at Elpro International School in Pune, India. One of our initiatives, Pangaea, a global village, where we brought in schools from different parts of the world, right, and from different time zones, right from Brazil to Sweden to Singapore to the Middle East and to the United Kingdom. We had different people coming together, participating in a plethora of activities. And that's when we realized that, yes, we are now taking a step towards universalization of education. I think that is what we are here to discuss. And I'm really honored to be a part of this amazing and august panel of eminent educators from across India and the Middle East. I am sure that your institutions have taken similar steps in the universalization of education and collaborative learning. Without much ado, may I request all the panelists to please introduce yourselves.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Hameed Ali Yahya, Principal of Scholars Indian School, Al-Khaimah.
Namaste, Adab, good afternoon. This is Dr. Swarnabha Saxena, Principal and Owner, Holy Rock School, West Bengal, India.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daizy Paul. I'm the principal of Ryan International School, Sharjah, not Dubai, Sharjah, and I've been working for Ryan for the past 25 years. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Zainab Asif, and I am leading the department. I'm the head of department in American International School, Dubai.
Wonderful. So my first question to you, Mr. Hameed, we'll start from you, is we spoke about so much about ICT in the previous panel also, the technology in assessments. So for this, I just wanted to ask you that, do you think ICT and technology are assisting in the universalization of education, and what are the different areas that schools often don't take advantage of?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Do you think technology is assisting us in the globalization of education? And if yes, what do you think the schools are not taking advantage of?
Yeah, of course. You see, technology, as far as the present world is concerned, we cannot neglect. And not only that, you see, especially after the pandemic, the education is supported a lot by the introduction of many online platforms. But right now, the problem is what we have yet to consider. I believe, you see, regarding education. Education, you know that education is not merely something that should bring us a very good living. It should be changing the whole person into a better humanity, and we should be preparing the people to live in the present world. So that way, I think we need to consider a lot of human values. And this human value, I believe, is somewhere we are, a little bit neglecting. That is what I feel. You see, the technology part, when we are more into the technological areas, sometimes we forget you see, how to improve the humane qualities or the humane characteristics in the students. That is what is happening. Especially, you see, when we are introducing this technology, you see, we are narrowing down to ourselves. When the students were attending online classes, they were sitting in front of a panel board or a monitor, and they are sitting in a closed room. And they are thinking most often about themselves, about their own gains, about their own, you see, groups, smaller groups. So, you see, they are trying to enjoy that way in a very limited limited group. That way, you see, their experience is becoming smaller and smaller. So, in order to get more and more, you see, to develop more and more and better humane qualities, we need to have better experiences. We need to have larger experiences. So these larger experiences are now completely, you see, devoid of, because they are more concentrated on to smaller areas, smaller groups. So what I believe, you see, humane characteristics, that is what is, slowly or conveniently being neglected these days.
That's a wonderful thought. That's why probably technology cannot replace teachers, they say, in the classrooms. We can always leverage technology to our advantage, but definitely the values that we inculcate, that go down, like shaping the personality of students, probably, they go a long way in making world what it is and the kind of world that we're looking forward to. Yes, next question, Sugandha.
Thank you, sir. Taking cue from what you said and from what Dr. Vohra said, ma'am, what do you feel about how technology is bringing in the change and talking about globalization? Have you experienced an insight which you would like to share with the audience?
Yes, so I think technology has played a very vital role in helping to collaborate students from different countries. And we've been doing this in our schools from quite some time now. We call it classroom beyond boundaries, a school beyond boundaries or a classroom beyond boundaries, where of course technology has been integrated, and The beautiful aspect of it is that before Corona, students were taken to different countries to interact with children of that diverse culture in which they live and they prosper, to understand that what are their means and their ways of living life. So all Indian students are exposed to an arena of what life is all about. Because like in the previous panel discussions, we were talking about what are we teaching the students for? Are they meant to be prepared for exams, or are they meant to be prepared for life?
Yeah.
So we believe that students are meant to be prepared for life. So to prepare your students for life, you need to expose them to collaboration. You need to expose them to technological collaboration, because that is what is adapted. So when COVID was there and we could not have the children move to different countries, like usually we take our students to London. We have the Thames Valley Summer School programs for our children. We take them to Estonia. We have International Children's Film Festival. We have International Children's Performing Arts. That's what we call beyond classrooms, Sure. So children, get to those countries. Those children come to our country in India, and, they have a lot of performances together where they learn diverse cultures. Yeah. So this was happening before COVID. And when COVID stepped in, it became even easier, because you could just switch on your televisions and your screens, and you could have the children from other countries collaborate with our children. So I would like to cite an example here where we worked on, in COVID, on SDG. We were talking about Sustainable Development Goals. And our school worked on all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals with children from different classrooms, allocated children from different countries who were also working on projects, and each one of them was collaborating with each other on Zoom and other, technological aids that were provided, and talking about how each one of them at their respective schools in their respective countries is doing about this problem. So it was amazing to hear children talk on that platform, where they, shared ideas, they exchanged ideas, they collaborated. In fact, they were also given a problem which all of them sat together on different occasions, on different days, and tried to solve to come out with a solution. So that was amazing, and it was very nice to see children coming out with their ideas, though we were all indoors and we were struck by COVID, and we didn't know that, we actually cannot move the children out. But still sitting indoors with the help of technology, children were working on real life problems. So that was one diverse aspect of technology, being used for collaboration, which was amazing. And now that we don't have COVID, we are back to square one, where children again have chances to move around across the world, interact with children in different schools. They come over to our schools, they see what are we doing, and we go over to their schools, because again, like I said, we're preparing them for life. Yeah. So this social aspect of mixing with each other and learning from each other is required. So we don't only do it at the student level, we also do a teacher exchange program, which also helps the teachers to build upon their potential of teaching in our schools and learning from teachers in other schools as to what is their way of doing assessments, their way of, helping the children to develop certain skills which we might not be doing at our schools in India. So that's collaborating between countries, collaboration amongst the students, amongst the teachers, and we didn't stop even when COVID was around. So I think that's amazing, and technology has provided us all these, facilities that we could still go ahead while we were affected by COVID.
Sure.
Thank you.
That's great. Actually, before the pandemic and the first lockdown, what was happening was the macro advantage of technology wasn't coming to the fore where school education was concerned. But post the first movement to the online platform, what we saw was a disruptive change, which has turned out to be a kind of a benefit, like ma'am was saying. And yes, it's not that it was only meant for classes or just lessons. So much more happened there. Children making music together. They were planning and designing art together. Pangea that Sugandha just spoke of. And there's so much that happened around that time and continued post that. So that is what we have to focus on, that we just don't take up things and we drop them when they're not needed. No, we leverage them to our advantage. And it's wonderful that we're looking forward to so much more happening in that space. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. And yes, rightly said. So, there's so much to do, and I think that's where also the governments come in. My question to you, Ms. Daizy, Ms. Zainab, is with India's National Education Policy of 2020 and UAE's Centennial 2071 plan, both these sets of governments are making tremendous efforts to promote collaborative learning. And could you suggest some ways in which universalization of education can become a part of regular lessons in schools?
Okay, so technology has been more and beyond just communication and just, connecting people across the globe, but it's more coming towards in the education sector has been playing a vital role in connecting the communities, bringing the communities to the classroom. So I believe that when we moved on, when we were completely online and then we moved on to full face-to-face learning, continuing with those technological upgrades that we did at our school should still be continued in the daily learning. Like at our school, one of the sessions that we had was from a famous Montessori teacher who runs across the globe. The programs like master classes, Gavin McCormack, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, he had conducted master classes on writing sessions. So we kind of incorporated those classes within our classrooms where he ran the class across 70 countries around the globe. And all students coming on the same platform, sharing their experiences over there and, getting in there. So I believe that it is much beyond when we are talking about collaboration itself, giving students an opportunity inside the classroom to connect to people, to connect to students and learners outside the community, which also makes them self-aware, empathetic towards diversity and culture. Unlike before, when it was like a passive learning community where our learning was confined to classrooms, I think taking learning beyond the classroom has adversely had a good impact on how students can get that exposure to global or real-life problems and how they would then be able to face those challenges, develop those skills, acquire that knowledge that is needed by the world outside, and not only within the framework of that curriculum. So I believe that how we can, transform that learning, not only to learning the curriculum within the books, but also getting that exposure to different platforms, including those platforms, including the technology as a vital tool and aiding the learning process would actually help the students to, see the unknown world that we are entering to. We never knew that technology could actually play the vital role that it is right now. We never knew until COVID. So as the world is transforming into more AI generative programs, I think it is essential for our students to get that there, learn how to maximum or utilize those resources, utilize those platforms in a positive and proper manner, in a way that will benefit the education sector, benefit them as future lifelong learners.
That's great. Actually, you're talking about AI-based platforms, and there's so much controversy today on ChatGPT. Like I saw the newspaper headlines saying that, okay, is it ChatGPT or CheatGPT and so much more. It all depends how you use the platform. Suppose you're giving a particular task, I feel, to children, which is very contextual in nature, happening right there. They will not be able to copy it from anywhere. Okay, ChatGPT could be a language prompt, maybe a little bit of a knowledge prompt, but it all depends upon what kind of tasks are we giving our students. So if we can understand how to use these platforms and how to make sure that, a filtered kind of approach is very important. They're not there for plagiarism to pick up something and just put it there. I think that technology can really help students, to learn. And we move a step closer to a goal of universalization of education and also collaborative learning.
I just want to add on to that point too, where that controversy is about banning the ChatGPT and AI programs. I think our students should actually be used to that, make it a routine, and we should be able to show them the positive side of it or how it's going to benefit them in that.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
So we are speaking about the pros and cons of technology here and whether how much is too much for the students. Have you come across an experience where you feel that there's a very thin line between understanding what is right and what is wrong in terms of technology exposure for globalization?
Well, ma'am, as far as technology is concerned, that word, doesn't even take a minute to pronounce, but it has got a world of meaning in it. Now, how do we react and how do we perceive? It depends on the nature and on the focus of the individual. Now, as we have been using this term pandemic, I think we have grown very fond of that term. We fondly use the term pandemic because, yes, the entire world has seen what a pandemic can do. And when in the entire education industry was probably sitting idle and they were unable to do, what we actually did probably for the last 100 years. So it was technology that helped us reaching out to students from our homes to their homes. Now, this, there is, of course, a very thin line where people have to understand that how to benefit from it and where to start and where to end, where to hold it. Now, there is where the teachers, where we, teachers as role models, we come in and we advise students how to make the best use of technology without, not compromising on the moral values, which of course technology won't be able to teach you that. So moral values and ethics, socialization and everything needs to be taken into account, which technology won't teach you. But technology is a very powerful tool which will only aid you in your teaching learning process. And that's what collaborative learning is all about. We have been doing collaboration from probably ages, but now this term, this has become a trend as of now. So collaborative learning is something which does not take the teacher away from the child, but it makes the teacher-student relationship more, better, wherein the student is not is trying to solve a problem through his peers before approaching the teacher. It's a teaching learning thing wherein both the teacher, the learner comes in and tries to get involved in a process which is not complicated, makes things easier, and it's an umbrella term. So here the learner is trying to understand, just as the Soviet psychologist Lev Vygotsky, he explained that there is a lot what a learner can and cannot accomplish. Now, what he defined is the zone of proximal education. And the gap between what we can and what we cannot, that is where it bridges us. So here is where collaborative learning comes in and helps an individual, a learner, to understand better and also analyze what he can and what he cannot, understand his skills, what he has mastered, and also what is in maturation stage, so that can be matured in due course of time.
Yes, and that degree of collaboration probably will also kind of nurture the skill of teamwork, which is so important. Later on, we won't, in the corporate, need so many sessions on how to be a good team player and whatever, because we are used to learning from each other and with each other. Very, very important that aspect is when we are looking at kind of, honing skills for children to be together. In fact, in India, the Gurukul system that we had long back had all these areas covered beautifully, coming together, learning together, hands-on learning, experiential learning was all there. It is just that probably we lost track of that, and now we're coming back to from where we started.
I think what Sir said, Sir, really appreciate your insights on that. And I think one common question that I would like to throw to all panelists here is that Sir just mentioned that, we've been doing collaboration much before we speak about this entire technology integrated collaborative learning that happened post-pandemic. So I want to ask all of you that what are some of the most amazing collaborative practices that are not dependent on technology which you all are doing, and would you like to share with our audiences here? Sir, we'll start from you.
See, coming back, we cannot deny the fact, we faced one pandemic. My fellow, panelists said, we are, of course, very much used to the term pandemic these days, because that the world is now more or less divided into post-pandemic and pre-pandemic. Okay, so even before the pre-pandemic, we had collaboration long back, in fact, even though we did not use technology for that purpose. I think in 1960s, or even before that, we used to have a lot of collaboration, but not in the classrooms. Because people believed, we are supposed to work individually inside the classrooms, and they were asked, the teachers were giving, assignment, projects, problem-solving assignment, all these things to the individual students. But at the same time, a lot of collaborations were taking place outside the classroom. There were small study groups, there were, a lot of, political activities, being done together. And a lot of such collaborations were there outside the class. But later, many of the educationists, many of the philosophers thought about the possibility of this collaboration to be brought into the classrooms. Okay, especially when there was, as you said, when there was an achievement gap. There was, when a lot of minority students were brought into the mainstream of education, when there were a lot of low achievers were brought into the mainstream of education, there was, of course, an achievement gap. And a lot of differentiations happened. So they were thinking about how we can reduce the achievement gap. So finally, all these collaborations that were taking outside the classroom were brought into the classrooms. As a result, a lot of activities just like jigsaw, small group discussions, like that came into being. Recently, of course, because of the influence of pandemic, that the technology also took a major role, and the collaboration is now made global. A student or a person here in this part of the country can collaborate with somebody else in some other part of the world. And of course, the knowledge can be shared that way. That is true. At the same time, that education is believed to be a consequence or a result of interaction between, between the people or among the people, or between the people and the nature, or between the people and the surrounding. So this face-to-face interaction is also important. At the same time, in order to get a lot more information, of course, we cannot neglect technology, or we cannot neglect, the present-day collaboration. At the same time, because of this online collaboration, or because of this technology, probably we are missing, as you said, a lot of moral values. So we need to find out some solution for that one. So together with, moral values, in addition to, acquiring a lot of knowledge, a lot of documents from different parts of the world, we need to concentrate on that part also. So once we are able to, solve these kinds of issues, I'm sure, we'll be making the world a very beautiful place to live in. That is what I feel. Thank you.
I would like to add here, because you were talking about saying that what were we doing actually before technology came in. So I have to say, even before technology came in, we still were building a collaborative environment in the class where children were earning a kind of trust, they were developing kind of ethics, moral values, social values, because they were continuously interacting with each other in different groups. They might belong to diverse backgrounds, but they were given an opportunity to interact amongst each other in groups. They were given the ownership to express themselves. So once we provide a platform to the students without technology in a classroom, on a table, to come together, talk about values, learn about values, express your ideas, give you the importance, give importance to whatever you discuss or you brainstorm. I mean, these were certain things which were already existing, for which we did not need technology, but we needed a lot of cooperative learning. That's what we call it, in a way where you are in a group and you have to cooperate amongst yourselves to respect each other's views, to respect each other's ideas. And then you need to come to a certain conclusion to say that, okay, this was a problem given to us. This is how we've brainstormed it. This is how we've come to the conclusion as to how we can look at it. Have amongst yourselves a speaker who speaks about it. So you are developing leadership qualities, you are developing the quality of trust, you are building ethics amongst the students in that group to follow a certain pattern in life, which should be what they would face in life. So cooperative learning has worked along with collaborative learning and has helped the students even without technology to prosper, on their own. And not only that, once they come out and that particular idea is a success, as a group, they learn to celebrate their success. So that can happen with technology, but used to happen without technology in the earlier days. And that's what gives the child the confidence to come out further and do things in class, in school, in style. Because when your success is celebrated, any person, whether it's small, young, or older, you feel good about it. So the whole aspect of a classroom collaborative interactive session or classroom collaboration with cooperative learning would actually build on to the personality of a child. Thank you.
See, to add to that, I think we have to understand it's very pertinent that technology has just helped to make the boundaries a little fuzzy, has reduced the distance, has helped us in shrinking the world a little. But then the activities were always there in classrooms. This is just kind of making sure that across all those miles, we can still be close and collaborate.
Yes.
I would like to share the other side of the story when we went online or distance learning, and the students actually forgot those socializing skills.
Absolutely.
And we were really missing them when we came back to blended or full face-to-face, where students didn't learn, or students forgot, or found it difficult to interact, to accept each other's opinion, because they lost all those skills through the pandemic or through the distance learning. And the ones who were like our kindergartners or preschoolers, when they are coming up to grade 1, that 2 years of gap is actually giving them that, not giving them enough opportunity to grow there or to build on the skills that they were already having. So it's like whenever a student is even in grade 1 is supposed to be built on skills that were taught in kindergarten. So our curriculum was, or our teaching and learning had to be adapted that way, keeping in mind that those students have faced this era and then they have to be moved up by teaching them how to interact each other, how to be accepting each other's opinion on it. So as ma'am said that we had already been incorporating group learning and having those collaborative activities even without technology. It's now being like we have to emphasize it more further, giving them opportunities not within just the classroom, but giving having more of those project-based learning opportunities, or taking the learning outside the classroom where they are given some voluntary activities, they exposed to the wider community, they are exposed to a problem and the solution that they can find outside the classroom. Along with that, I also believe that the intelligent learning, where it comes on to giving a topic to the students and then letting them explore, adding their input of whatever knowledge they already have, and then each other, accepting each other's opinion, building on to that, and then showing us the outcome as a proper outcome where there's no right or wrong of it, where the question is more on open-ended, and where those students can present their learning, what they know and what they all have come up together, whether they were missing on some skills, whether they had some misconceptions, which can be addressed through group learning. So I think those opportunities, when it's given to the students, it will help us to bring back those socializing skills, the way to accept each other, accepting the responses, building onto each other's knowledge, and making them better future learners, lifelong learners. After all, we are targeting all those skills forever, but it has all been like faded through the pandemic.
I think you've touched upon a very, very important point. After the pandemic, when the children came back to school, we had, 10th graders behaving like 8th graders, 12th graders behaving like 10th, grade 2 behaving like kindergartners, and the teachers was apt. That, and then we realized that, the social, emotional bit of the growth happens in classrooms, happen through collaboration, and that pace had slowed down during the pandemic, and that was the biggest challenge that we were grappling with last year. And hopefully, yes, things are almost on track with all the initiatives that you've just spoken about.
So in fact, like we've been speaking about whether collaborative learning was all that great in the pandemic times, and what are the challenges that we've faced after we've come back to full-fledged offline learning again. So collaborative learning, it's a very wide spectrum of understanding. I would like to understand from you, what's your definition of collaborative learning, especially now after we've seen both the pandemic and the offline stage again? Would you say there's any difference in collaborative learning pre and post-pandemic?
Of course, ma'am. I'll come to that. I'll try to elucidate as much as possible. We start with the schooling with the children. Probably they start from the age of 2. I mean, we start nursery from that point of time. And as we are talking about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, so post-pandemic, when the children came back, let's not just think about the top graders. I mean, the higher classes. I'm talking about the kids. The kids were there who haven't seen classroom even once. They were seeing for the first time in their lives, and they were starting probably 2.5 years, and when they're coming to the classroom for the first time, they're like 2 years ahead of that. So 2 years had already been taken away from them. So a classroom, again, is a microcosm of the universe. And there is where the classroom is such a space where a child grows into adult with all the necessary tips being taken inside the classroom. And no matter whatever we do, we cannot take away this chalk and talk method away from a classroom. But then, of course, technology has enhanced, everything, right from education to medical facilities, and everything. Technology is there, and it will be there. Because as far as I understand and I perceive, hopefully everyone will agree, given the recent future, if not today, but given the recent future, collaborative learning will be an indispensable thing. Yeah. So we have to understand how to use this powerful tool to enhance, to apprehend, because children need to understand if they are diligent, if they are resilient, and when it comes to education, if they are forward. Of course, problem-solving skills, they increase in leaps and bounds. Sure. As the great monk, Hindu monk, Swami Vivekananda said, we want education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. So technology is not taking away anything, it's only giving, it's only nurturing, and it's only creating a path where in today's world, a child can prosper and create his or her own avenues on its own, and need not depend on a particular individual or the teacher, because learning has changed from the teacher-centric point to the learning-centric point. Yeah. I'll just share another thing with you. Before pandemic, probably for the last 10-15 years, we used to take children to experience something in the wild. Like we used to take them to camping, take away from all the facilities and comforts and luxuries of life. They were staying in camps, they were under the open sky, and there were basic facilities only the basic facilities was available, and maximum facilities were not there. So we were trying them to understand that today, what was the world before this, everything, all the luxuries came to you. But now even we are thinking that pandemic has already taught that. So we have to again restructure ourselves to make them understand that what we are losing out, they need to understand from the classroom itself.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you for that, sir. And that brings me to my next question, because ultimately when we talk about collaborative learning and 21st century learning, creating global citizens, so we are all trying to nurture and educate global citizens in our schools. when we speak about collaborative learning and what are the different traits and skills that our students should have to be a universalized student of a globalized world, what are those skills what are the top 3 skills that come to each of your mind? We'll start with you, Zainab. The top 3 skills that come to your mind when I say a globalized student.
I think critical thinking, for sure, that we need to have. We also have collaboration, as in the skill. And I believe that digital literacy, getting digital literate is one of the essential skills, because nowadays with this fast moving tech world, I think our students need to know what is right and wrong when they are using the platforms. So that has to be an essential skill where the students need to understand how the digital world, or how that is going to impact or create any sort of misconceptions for the learners. So digital literacy is forever now going to be an essential skill for students when they are getting that exposure to many of those softwares and many of those websites where they're getting that exposure.
So I think the first important skill that all our children need to develop is design thinking skill, because that's what the world is all about now. And of course, they need to do problem solving at every step in life. So they need to solve that problem with particular designs, and they need to be creative to do it. So according to me, you should be a designer. You should know how to solve your problems creatively. So problem solving creatively with designs is what I feel are the 3 things are integrated, and that's what students should develop, and that's what our lookout for them towards life should be. I want to give an example here because this is a real life question, and this is a real life problem which I'm citing from our school where we've solved it. So for all those people who are from India, I would like to let you know that in UAE here, there were some cases, sir might agree with me, there were some cases here where children were left back in the cars by their parents when they went out for shopping, and by the time the parent came back, the child had collapsed. And also there were incidents where children were left back in the school buses, and the driver did not know that the child is left back in the school bus because the child went off to sleep. So there were a lot of incidents that happened, I think, before the COVID and during the COVID also. You can relate to it recently also. So there were a lot of these incidents happening, and parents were forgetting children in the cars, and we had a strict message being given out by the government which said that you will be fined if you happen to leave your children back in the car. So this is the true story that I'm talking of here in UAE. So I just raised this question to my 10th, 11th, and 12th standard students, and I said that, what do you feel about this problem? And they said, oh, this is really terrible. How can a father and a mother forget their toddler in a car? Or how can the bus driver forget a student in the bus? And, he just, sleeps there, and then finally when the bus is open in the evening, we found that, the child was no more. So it was a disaster that happened on the school campus, and it was all over in the news. So this was a real-life problem that we were facing, and we gave it to our students. And our students worked on it for more than 3 months and came out with an idea where you can put an internet, it's again related to technology. So it's called Internet of Things, a kind of device which you can put on the bus and in the car, that when the parent or the driver switches off the engine, it immediately speaks to him and lets him know there's somebody seated on so-and-so seat at this place. So you don't leave the bus and go out. You actually go and pick up the child, or you let him get up. The same applies to the parents when they go for shopping, that they don't forget their child back or their toddler back in the car. So students have worked over this. We called it Internet of Things, where they actually got loading cells come into a particular system, put it in a bus, checked onto it in a bus whether the driver could get the intimation that there's somebody left on so-and-so seat. So it was basically something related to AI that was incorporated to give, a kind of a tool to the driver and the parents that you could use this and not have children left back in the buses and in the cars, and provide, abstain from these incidents, which are real-life disasters. So we actually worked on it for 6 months, and we had the prototype ready with students doing it. So the school management funded the prototype, And we actually had it in our school buses, and it worked. So this is an example of a real-life problem where our children worked on it and got something out. And it was very challenging because each one of them had their ways of doing it, but in the end, it resulted in one prototype, for which I'm very proud that the school got a patent, and we got a lot of awards for this new innovation that the children have come out with.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think
This is
I
something,
think we can
yeah.
all clap for this, I think, like, great move, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
See, together with the skills all of them have discussed here, I have to add, we need to think about the analytical skill of the students as well. You see, technology we cannot get rid of, we cannot neglect. It is a part of life right now. As ma'am said, we can make use of this technology for several matters. Even, these kinds of, ID cards, now you can find some chips have been installed in this one so that we can trace the place of the child, like that. A lot of things are there. And together with that one, we have a lot of, a lot of information is coming to our children. The students can access to a number of information which are probably required, which are probably not required. So we want our children to understand, to analyze what is required for him. What can he use for that particular project? As ma'am said, we in collaboration, we have a problem-based, collaboration. We have project-based collaboration, okay, right? So for these kinds of things, we need our children to know what are really required for this. Otherwise, what is going to happen is once he is taken away by some, once he is influenced or attracted by some information that are not really required for the given assignment, probably he'll be not able to achieve what he wants. He won't be able to celebrate his achievement. So that is there. So just like ma'am said, digital skill, problem-solving skills, so this analytical skill is also very important. The students must know to understand, what is required, what is useful for him, how he can use the information that he got from different sources digitally. All these are to be very important. That is what I feel. So I emphasize these three skills.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, adding analytical skills to that bouquet. Sir, what are your top 3 skills that you feel a globalized student should have?
Development is there, without a doubt. Then celebration of diversity, and probably the most, I would say nowadays, it is benefiting that the social interaction. It encourages social viable interaction. Yeah. And last but not the least, the most important benefit that I personally feel is it enhances the purpose of education itself. By involving a group of learners together, it makes them socially responsible. They come together, they become responsible citizens, and then they, work together to solve complex economic, critical problems, social problems. And in a way, what was, probably thought impossible at a point of time has been made possible today. And I would say that technology has narrowed not just cultures, but continents itself. Yeah. So one thing we'll have to keep in mind, since we are all teachers here. At the end of the day, we belong to the same fraternity. Educators, teachers, all here. We'll have to keep in mind the mental health, because technological advancements, they have been phenomenal. And technological advancements have made lifestyle sedentary. And they have made this, the children, a phenotype, what it was 20, 25 years back. So what I can say is that we'll have to keep in mind that the mental health of children, mental health of students needs to be given a lot of emphasis as on the contrary to what technological advances are being made. Because if the mind is not working properly, if the mind is not sane, the technology would not become of any use. So,
That's a very valid, very valid point. Like life skills is what we have to equip children with. Rest everything is all fine. But if in the toolkit we don't have a life skills, we'll not be able to navigate through life. We talk about making children world ready. So one best gift that we can give them is put the right tools in their toolkit so that they can navigate through their workspace, their personal spaces, at home, out there with the community. So the fabled global citizen comes to life when we equip children with these skills. So I think we got some very valid inputs there, right?
All right, I think one last question again to all of you here is, we've been speaking about collaborative learning, globalization. What is it that as educators, because Sir did mention about mental health and not letting children get overwhelmed by the use of technology. So what is that one thing for universalization of education that we should start doing and one thing we should stop doing? We'll start with you.
And this question is going to come to the audience also. One thing that we should start doing and one thing that we should stop doing. So your take on it. Yeah.
I'm saying that, when we've been speaking so much about collaborative learning and universalization of education, what is it that you think that we should start doing and what is it that you think we should stop doing now?
Okay, for me, I feel that collaborative learning, when we are having that collaboration and when we are preparing our students for future to become a lifelong learners, I think our assessment policies should change towards that, where we can start from, short-term projects being evaluated and not completely giving it as an independent or, isolated assessments, formative assessments, summative assessments. I think the group assessment or the outcome that they are having an evaluation based on the rubric would actually be beneficial and more realistic. So I believe that we should start having those evaluation and assessments based on groups and collaborative learning, and then I think we should stop using using technology as a reason as a barrier to socializing skills. So that's what I feel.
Okay, so don't make technology a barrier, you're saying, and better assessment.
Yeah.
So what about you?
You see, for the globalization of education, let me tell you, I am not against technology. My point is, we should not, use technology in such a way that we are completely carried away by that one. We should know how to use technology. Okay, so technology is not an end. Technology is only a means to achieve our objective. So we need to concentrate on giving this idea, this value to our students, how to make use of technology so that our objective is achieved. So most often what is happening now, you see the technology, because of its greater influence in our children, in our present, even we people, let me tell you, we tell our students not to use mobile to a larger extent. What about we people? You see that we are also using the very same thing more than required. Okay, right. It is what is happening. We know, these kinds of use is probably harming our health or maybe taking away our valuable time, but still we are addicted to this one. So we need to stop being addicted to technology. Instead, technology we should use in such a way that it brings us the desired objective. It brings us, the level of success that we are looking for using that one. That is what I feel.
Okay, so it doesn't dictate you, just one of the tools that helps you to do what you want to do. Sir, one thing you should start doing and stop doing, your choice.
well, ma'am, as Mr. Henry Ford rightly pointed out, that coming together it's already there. So working together, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. So technology and mankind can only go on these lines. If they go on these lines, probably they are doing wondrous jobs. As far as keeping this is concerned, we used to, cite this example to students, that students need to keep their cup empty if they want to learn from the teacher. If it's already full, the teacher won't be able to, pour anything. But it's not the same thing now. If the teacher and the student can collaborate and learn together, they don't be the cup or the mug, they become a vessel itself. And it changes its shape according to the need of situation. So here both are complementing each other in the process of teaching learning method. And I would try to relate an example. I come from the country and the civilization which has given the world a word which is silence, and it is preceded by more silence on one hand. And on the other hand, it has got all the sounds of the nature. The word is Om. So here, if I consider the mobile as a harbinger of technology, keep it silent when it is required, when you want to learn from a person who's there. Use it because you already have the world in it. Use it because it's already there. You have got every information there. Use it when you really want to inculcate. But the teacher is always there for you to give when you want to get. So be silent, be resilient, be diligent. Thank you.
That's something very important. We had a case, where a child almost had an anxiety attack because, for 2-3 days couldn't locate his phone. They're so dependent. Okay, in the school, of course, don't sit down with mobiles, but they're so dependent on this. What are the updates, Facebook updates? What did my friend say about me? What did I post today? What did he post today or she posted today? So there's so much happening in the background that they can't survive without it. So definitely, I think we should learn how to just, keep things at bay and live happily if there is a need.
Okay. Ma'am, I have an example. You see, in my school, one day, especially, it was during the time of pandemic. Again, okay, we are going back to the pandemic age. Okay, right. You see, during the time of pandemic, one day, one parent came to me and told that my son is in 10th standard and he's not learning anything. The problem is, she told me that the main reason for his resentment is the parent took away his mobile. Okay. In fact, you see, the parents gave mobile, computer, everything for adding to his learning, in fact. But what happened is, he was taken away by some unwanted things. For example, he started playing a lot of mobile games, and once he was not able to continue his playing, he started being crazy. And not only that, he started fighting with the parents, physical fight. Just imagine, it's a parent who has provided everything for the growth of the child is turning to be the enemy of that parent because of the so-called one. So what I feel is, we want, whenever we provide some technology or some device like this one, we need to be careful to give them certain guidance how to use it and what they are expected to do with that one and when to use it. All these types of guidance are to be given to the students, and we need to follow that one. Just because you can find even some small kids are given mobile phones and even tabs just to give them what sort of consolation, something like that. When a child is crying, even a 2-year-old child is crying, what many of the mothers do, they give the mobile. That is what is happening. So they are becoming an addict to that one. So being an addict to technology is a great issue nowadays. At the same time,
Absolutely.
the very same technology we can use we can use in such a way that we'll be growing to such an extent that we cannot imagine. So that possibility of technology is now probably conveniently neglected by the younger generation. That is
I
what
think
is
restrained use of technology is what we need to educate our students all about.
And
Ma'am,
so,
yes.
yeah, I just want to add, sorry to interrupt. What sir is saying is correct. That we are facing those scenarios right now in school, and he's very well resonating with it. So what I would like to put across, which I would like to insist to be followed furthermore, is mindfulness. And when I say mindfulness, I mean the development of the social quotient and the emotional quotient. So if we can develop a social quotient and an emotional quotient by doing a lot of well-being sessions being done by the school counselor, well-being sessions being done by the teachers, by the parents, and if we can continue to have a platform like that, we can get rid of some of these issues that sir has been speaking about. So I would stress that these two things should be propagated, and what should not be propagated is comparison of children on the basis of their IQs. I think we need to cut down to that, because IQ in our times, we were told is the topmost thing that you should have. But in today's time, it's no more IQ, and we should not pay importance to IQ. We should pay more importance to developing the SQ, that is the social quotient, and the emotional quotient. So that's what I would like to further enhance with doing more things upon.
Yeah. I'd like Dr. Vohra for her closing remarks on this.
Yeah, and anybody from the audience? One input in case somebody's interested, or of course we can kind of wind it up. Yes, we've had some wonderful insights, meaningful, substantive kind of, inputs. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that everybody's benefited, and the roadmap for future is being paved through educators like you. Yes, if there's anybody, yes, please.
Hi, so in continuation to the discussion, what all the eminent speakers have done here today, I just want to remind all of us that collaboration in learning is a tool, whether you are talking about technology or in whichever way, but it cannot be the goal. So everything has to go on these lines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, panelists, for your contributions. It was great listening to your insights. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you to all the panelists.